Plenty of people highly critical of Israel's occupation, including some Israelis, and many accept your report's description of administrative detentions, of persecution against Palestinians, and of the denial of certain basic rights for Palestinians. They will use words like oppression, tyranny, and discrimination, for example, but that they say is where it stops. Tell us why it is that you call this apartheid.
We call it apartheid because it is apartheid under international law. We have spent 4 years investigating on the ground, conducting legal analysis with some of the best legal minds on the crime of apartheid. What we have found is a system of laws, policies, practices, intricate, bureaucratized, that are there in order to ensure control and domination of the Palestinian people, and in order to ensure demographic hegemony of one racial group over another one, and in order to ensure maximal control over the land. That is the definition of a system of apartheid. This is my first visit to Israel OPT, and I was shocked to the core by finding the extent of the segregation within those societies, the extent to which people are separated, people are unequal, the extent to which apartheid and the system has been internalized to the extent that it is becoming almost banal and absurd at times.
Right.
That is a system of apartheid.
Israel has refuted this report, as with others in the past, by calling it anti-Semitic. What's your response to that?
Look, going after the messenger is one way of ensuring that there is no discussion on the substance. We need to focus on the reality of life for Palestinians. Amnesty stands by its report and stands by its right to critique Israel every time Israel violates international law. That is not anti-Semitic. That is doing our work as an international human rights organization in the same way that we critique a range of countries, whatever their religious background, their racial makeup, and so on and so forth. That is what we are here for. We want to engage with the substance of what we have found, which is a multitude of human rights violations amounting to the crime of apartheid.
I want you to hear more from the Israeli response. Just have a listen to what the foreign minister had to say.
Instead of seeking the truth, Amnesty echoes the same lies shared by terrorist organizations. 5 minutes of serious examination would be enough to know that the so-called facts in the report published by Amnesty this week are delusional and disconnected from reality. Israel isn't perfect, but we are a democracy committed to international law, open to criticism, with a free press and a strong and independent judicial system. Amnesty doesn't call Syria, where the regime has murdered 500,000 of its own citizens, an apartheid state, nor Iran or other murderous regimes around the world, only Israel. I hate to use the argument that if Israel wasn't a Jewish state, no one at Amnesty would dare make such a claim against it. But in this case, there's simply no other explanation.
Your response?
Oh, that's ridiculous. That's lies. First of all, if that gentleman is able to review a 300-page document, very densely written in 5 minutes, really, I don't know. He must be a superhuman. So that's the first thing. Please read the report. It will take time, but it's worth it. Second of all, Amnesty is an impartial organization. Of course we have denounced human rights violations, crimes against humanity committed by the Syrian forces. Of course, we have denounced and continue to denounce what Iran is doing to its people from 1988 onwards. We have written extensively on what happened in 1988 in Iran and the massacres that took place, as we have written extensively on crimes against humanity committed by China. Yes, and yes, we also focus on Israel because Israel through its laws, policies, and practices, is implementing a system of apartheid against the Palestinian people. This is what international law tells us to conclude, and this is what we're doing.